All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack a really simple puzzle about the stars that, and this is no exaggeration, completely changed modern logic and philosophy. And it all starts with one guy, Gottlob Frege, and two sentences that look almost identical.
So just look at these two statements. On one side, you have, the morning star is the morning star. I mean, obviously, right? That tells you absolutely nothing new. But then look at the other one. The morning star is the evening star. Now that was a massive astronomical discovery. It's how we learned that the bright dot we see in the sky in the morning and the one we see in the evening were actually the same thing all along, the planet Venus.
And there it is. That's the puzzle that started it all. If the morning star and the evening star are the exact same thing, why isn't the second statement just as boring and obvious as the first one? Answering that question is what led Frege to rebuild logic from the ground up.
So yeah, let's dig into this starry story puzzle and see how Frege managed to solve a problem that turned out to be about a lot more than just astronomy.
To really get why his solution was so brilliant, you gotta remember what the world was like back then. Before Frege came along, logic was kinda messy. It was all tangled up with psychology, it was more about studying the subjective ways our brains happen to work.
But Frege, he had a totally different vision. He wanted to make a clean break, to turn logic into a proper, objective science, just like physics or chemistry.
And his ambition here was huge. He basically said, look, every other science is out there trying to find truths about the world. Logic's job is different. Its job is to find the universal laws of truth itself. He wanted to create a rock-solid system for proving things that had nothing to do with the quirks of human psychology. To do that, he needed a foolproof test for when two things are truly identical, and he found it in an old idea from a philosopher named Leibniz.
The idea is actually pretty simple when you break it down. If two things, let's call them A and B, are really the same, then you should be able to swap them out in any sentence, and the truth of that sentence won't change at all. That was Frege's gold standard for identity.
But here's the catch. This just throws us right back into the puzzle. If Leibniz's rule is right, and you can swap morning star for evening star, then why does that statement feel like a huge revelation, instead of, just stating the obvious? The puzzle was still there.
And this is where Frege had his big breakthrough. He realized everyone was asking the wrong question entirely. The answer wasn't in the stars, it was in our words. It required what he called a semantic shift.
So first he thought about the identity of things. The relationship an actual planet has with itself. For Frege, this was totally trivial. Saying Venus is Venus, well, it doesn't tell you anything. It's completely uninformative.
But then he thought about the identity of signs, the names and symbols we use. He realized that when two different names point to the same single object, now that is where new knowledge comes from. That's incredibly informative. And boom, puzzle solved. The big discovery wasn't about the planet Venus relating to itself. The discovery was about our language. It was realizing that two different names we'd been using pointed to the very same thing. Let's just walk through it one more time. You have one sign, the name the morning star. You have another sign, the evening star. The big scientific discovery was learning that these two completely different signs, these two different labels, were actually pointing to one and the same object out there in space. Venus. The statement gives us new information because it connects two parts of our language, not because it tells us a planet is itself.
Now this might seem like a pretty subtle distinction, but trust me, this little shift in focus from things to signs had absolutely massive consequences that we still feel today in philosophy, math, and even computer science.
What he did was incredible. He took a problem that everybody thought was about the physical nature of objects in the universe, and he turned it into a problem about how language itself works and creates meaning.
And just look at the ripple effect. This move helped finally yank logic away from psychology and turn it into a formal science. It laid the literal groundwork for the symbolic logic that makes things like computers and programming possible. And it basically opened the floodgates for a whole century of new thinking about how our words connect to reality.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that this simple little puzzle about stars ended up revealing something incredibly profound about us. The language we use, the names we make up, they don't just passively describe reality. The very act of connecting those names is an act of discovery. How we name things literally shapes what we know about the world.
And that leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending question to think about. If all our knowledge is built by connecting signs on this map we call language, how can we ever be sure that our map is a perfect picture of the territory, of the world as it actually is? Something to chew on.